rails and motorways has been a long and painful one. In the private member's bill on the acquisition of Māori land by Public Works, put up by my colleague Tūrero Flavel, there are examples of what we could define as compulsory alienation. But just to put this contemporary bill into an historical context, I want the House to recall that by 1885, Māori land could be taken for roads and railways under the main public works provisions, or under the Crown right to take up to 5% of lands without compensation. Indeed, in a letter of 9 February 1928 from Sir Aparana Ngata to Sir Peter Buck, he suggested that the provisions for taking land without compensation for roads and railways did not end until 1927 as a result of Sir Aparana Ngata's influence. But there were other concerns raised over the last 170 years about the damage that the impact of infrastructure development might have. In reports tabled by John Ballance, Minister of Lands, Defence and Native Affairs in the Stout-Vogel administration, we hear of many of these concerns. Māori were concerned that traditional food sources such as eel swamps and berry trees might be destroyed. They were concerned that when valuable timber was cut, they wanted to be paid for it, and they wanted to benefit from participation in decision-making over road routes. Fast forward 120 years and the concerns are similar, but different. We must never forget that the history of this land will carry forward into our discussions of today. It is a context that always shapes the thinking that we undergo in creating new solutions for old problems. The problems of either century are related to the unintended effects of the decisions we make about infrastructure. We all know that a strong infrastructure is vital to a well-running economy. It is about facilitating the movement of peoples, goods and information around our country and around the world. Effective infrastructure is all about servicing housing and households. It is a primary means of being able to enhance community life and to keep us all connected. But we must never get into a position in which economic growth is of more importance than social, cultural or environmental concerns. In this light, the Māori Party supports improved public transport rather than investment in roading itself. We want to see more support for integrated public transport networks of buses, trains, walking and cycling tracks. We are concerned now about the impact of infrastructural decisions on our environment. And in particular, we want to reduce our reliance on oil in the face of peak oil. We have a preference for transport and roading which is frequent, reliable and inexpensive. We will continue to put forward the view that an approach to infrastructure which is focused only on future economic growth will only ever be a limited one. Last year we were visited by Maury Wolfson, the Utilities Program Manager in the Colorado Governor's Office. Now, for those whose main association with utilities is through landing on the waterway space in the game of Monopoly, utility operators are those who manage the electricity, gas, telecommunications, water and wastewater. This guy from Colorado had an interesting approach. He was motivated by 5 E's: environment, energy, economy, education, equity. He described this as the ecosystem of thinking. This type of thinking should be encouraged in all areas of infrastructure development. We are facing fundamental change and we need to be prepared on all fronts. This bill is about reducing inefficiencies in the legislation and to prevent the disputes which create project delays and increased costs. It takes into account factors such as the safe and efficient flow of traffic, the health and safety of the public, and the need to lessen disruption to businesses and the community. But just as in 1885 there were varied and passionate views about the role of Māori in participation, so too in 2010 we want to broaden the debate so we are not just talking about building up the nation's hardware, hospitals, prisons, transmission lines and electricity plants. Economic growth potential must not be fast-tracked at all costs, placing stress on our environment or impacting on our capacity to live healthily and sustainably. We will support this bill in the interests of a broader debate.